Okay, so let's get on with the combat here. But we are going to change a few things around because I do want to teach you about the hit and run tactics. But for this combat, it's going to be, of course, chaos. I have our chaos warfare dice, the final strike die. We're going to roll carefully. And it's a monster hit. Final strike is, what is that, 19. Wow. And then +3, that's 22. But remember, you're going to process that second. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But again, with that, what is that, 6 and 7, that's 13, plus his 3 on his hero card, that's another monster hit, 16 and 22. So he like just demolished that orc archer, okay? But for what I want to show you, let's say that he got like a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Of course, those values don't exceed 9 printed on the orc archer's card. So Mahaliak would, of course, take 2 damage because, remember, the warfare roll is 1 damage, and then you use that damage for the final strike. That's 1. So Mahaliak would take 2. But let me clear this out and let me show you what would happen. So as of right now, it did 2 damage to Mahaliak, correct? Now it did its, hit. Now it's going to run. Remember, we're in a quadrant here with the bloody arrows that say 1 to 3, 4 to 6. So the minion is thinking, okay, which way do I want to go to escape the dungeon to raid the village? We're going to roll the d6 and see the result. So kind of like this is its AI thinking which way it's going to go. Okay, 2. Right here, 1 to 3. Of course, that's a 2. It's going to traverse that way. Let's take another look at it, the Orc Archer's minion card. This right here, I'll give you a few things. We're going to go over a lot of this later on. But 1, that means level 1. But right here, this is what we're looking for. D6 plus 3. This means it has a base movement of 3 plus the roll of a D6. So we're going to roll the D6 to generate its movement. Okay, not very much movement. But remember, it's going to go this way out of the dungeon. So get this warfare token out of there. So it's going to move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's heading out this way to escape the dungeon. So of course Mahaliak would follow up and try to kill that minion. So this is very easy from here. I'm going to shift you over here just a little bit. So basically, it's this minion is going to follow these bloody arrows out of the dungeon up to the siege tile, way kind of up there. So that's basically how that works with hit and run tactics. Let's go over one other thing before we go on to the next step. As I said, you're going to learn a lot in this video, and I think you're going to enjoy this part right here. Let's discuss the target priority box. And you're going to notice this on the minions and the guardians, okay? Notice this red box here. This is your target priority box. It says C3, C1, C2. What that means is it's a class rating. So when I devised the system, certain heroes are class 3. Certain heroes are class 1, certain heroes are class 2. So let's take a look at this here. Here's our archer hero, Enwin. Notice right here, CR. That's, of course, class rating. She's a class 2 hero. Okay, Mahaliak here is CR1, class rating 1. And then it's basically like this. Mahaliak and Sir Brennis are class 1. Palum, the rogue, and your archer hero, they're class 2, and then your kind of spellcasters, Zeke, let me grab his card real quick and show you. It says C3, but I just want to show you. So see right there, C3, class rating 3. So this is kind of like the AI that I devised for the minions. And kind of like, I guess, in air quotes, when I program them, they're programmed to go after the hero that they can potentially do more damage to. So let's take a look at this here again. So, target priority. Okay, so this Orc Archer is going to try to attack a class 3 hero, your wizard, your cleric. Now, on its path out of the dungeon, of course I moved things around. There's Enwin and Mahaliak, okay? So let's take a look at this. So there's no class 3 hero right now with who the minion can attack. So we're going to go right down the next list, C1. Of course, that is Mahaliak right over here. So let's generate some movement. Hopefully it's going to be a lot for this minion so I can demonstrate this for you. Well, it only came up 1. Let's just say that it came up something like 6, okay? It had a lot of movement. So it's right here, correct? Remember, according to its hero card, Enwin, who's a class 2 hero, is last on the list. This Orc Archer isn't worried about that. He wants to try to find a class 1 hero since there's not a class 3. So moving out, he's going to go, what is that? 3 and 6 would be 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You notice that? It just bypassed our class 2 hero because this is who he's after, a class 1. Notice he had a few movement left. You can use that as a reminder. Hit and run tactics. He's going to attack Mahaliak, finish the combat, and if that orc minion is still alive, it's going to use the remaining movement to keep moving. Hit and run tactics. And in Dungeon Crusade, they are allowed to occupy a space momentarily to pass through, whether it be another monster or another hero. So let's say that he attacked and put damage on Mahaliak, then he would go 8, 9 and finish his movement, moving out of the dungeon. And that's simply how this works right here. And again, the Guardians have this target priority. So I'm glad that we touched on this. So it's really, hopefully that seems very easy. Class 3, Class 1, Class 2, and you can find that information right here on the hero card. Before we move on, I do want to touch on something. Remember when we first rolled, there was only a 1? Let's go back to that for a moment. So, of course, going back to its target priority, it's going to try to get to Mahaliak. However, if it doesn't, that 1 and 3, that would be 4. 1, 2, 3. Now, since it cannot make it to Mahaliak, it is going to attack Enwin. So immediately, when a minion becomes adjacent, and just know adjacent means if Enwin's here, it's those 8 squares around her, or rather the minion. As soon as that minion stops, it's going to do its hit and run tactics. So if it has low movement and it can't get to its main target priority, it will attack the hero, whoever it can attack on its turn. In this case, it is Enwin. So moves in, it's going to do the combat with the warfare token. Process that. It has 1 movement remaining. It'll just move right up to here. So I just wanted to point that out, that it will attack a hero if it's within, any hero, if it has low movement like that. Okay, and again, I hope that you're enjoying this video. It's a little longer, but as you can see, you're learning a lot about Dungeon Crusade in this, with the rules and, of course, the Evolved Minions game variant. So at this time, why don't we break down a minion monster card, okay? And let me tell you a little bit about this. Move one of these lights back here. Okay, minions, as you probably know, there's 3 in each of the groups here. Okay, notice the green, red, and blue. So let me point out, notice these green and red crystals here. These are known as elite minions. Okay, and then you're going to notice that there's those gold stars right here. That denotes that is an elite minion. Over here, this is a normal version. Notice the silver star. So what it is, let's take these guys, these elites. So when I created these, elite minions have special abilities. Actually, I'm going to drop that one down. So for this Wraith here, let's take a look. Hopefully that comes into focus. There you go. He has a special ability here, Shadow Step. At the end of the Wraith's turn, it rolls 1d20. On a result of 16 to 20, it takes an additional turn. This ability can only activate once per turn. And let me say that a lot of these kind of special abilities are just really fun, cool, easy ones to understand. There's nothing very complex about them. Okay, so your red and green minions are your elites. They're always going to carry special abilities. Now, the ones that have the blue crystal, these are normal, and this gave me a chance to write the backstory and the lore of all of the monsters and minions and guardians and champions in the game. You know, just to do more world building for you and more of the lore of Dungeon Crusade in the land of Avalon. So your blue ones, Silver Star, there's no special ability, but instead, you know, you get to read the backstory, the origin story for that particular monster or creature. Okay, so let's break down a minion card, and not to give you too much, but don't be surprised in the expansion if you see like another Wraith or, you know, all of them with a yellow crystal and a new type of minion within this group. It's something I've had going on for a while. But anyway, let's go over here. Let's go over its card here. First of all, of course, that's its name. And remember the difficulty. This is normal difficulty. You can tell by the white kind of glow behind its name and the the skull here in the top right corner. If this was expert, it would glow green. There'd be 2 skulls. If it was heroic, it would glow blue, and there'd be 3 skulls. Okay? I'm trying to make sure I get that in focus so you can see everything here. These, of course, are the warfare values. You already know what those are. You already know here, that's the target priority box. That tells you the level 1, 2, or 3. You already know that. That's your movement. D6 plus, that's their base movement. Now here's something interesting right here. Notice the treasure chest and the gold coin. What's that known as is the loot and gold roll. Let me grab the D20. Okay, and again, this treasure chest icon right here, it says 19 plus, and then that gold coin, 19 plus. This is the loot and gold roll. It's one roll together. And of course, we're going to use the D20. So what happens is this. When one of your heroes slays a minion, you're going to take the D20 and make one roll, the loot and gold roll. This is the probability that this Wraith or minion or monster or champion, whoever it is carrying a piece of loot where you get to draw from the loot deck, and the probability of them carrying any gold. So when you roll the D20, if 19, well, sometimes these values will be different. You're going to notice that some monsters consider they're kind of rare, and they're going to be carrying a lot of gold and maybe not have a good chance of loot. Or maybe one of the monsters is going to have a really good chance of having loot, but you know, they're not going to have a lot of gold. There's a bunch of them all mixed up in there for you. So in case of this Wraith here, say we killed this Wraith, the hero would get to roll the D20 for the loot and gold roll. So we would just simply roll, and we got close, 18. Of course, that doesn't meet or exceed 19. So this minion was not carrying any piece of loot or any gold. However, if it was 19 or 20, you would get to draw a loot card from the loot deck, and it had 100 gold on it. It's as simple as that. Okay, moving along right here. And I believe we talked about this before. That's the racial trait of this minion. So in Dungeon Crusade, there's humans, undead, demonic, beast, mythical. So that tells you right there what that is. Down here, of course, that's their special ability because this is an elite. And then notice here the green circle. Minions, this is life force. Minions aren't worth any life force. They're just trash mobs. They're not worth anything for life force. Of course, the heart with 1, that's of course their health. And that's the breakdown of a minion card. The Guardian and Champion cards are pretty much the same. There is a little bit of difference to those, but we'll be getting into those into the monster phase video and probably the hero phase. But so there it is. That's the breakdown of a minion card pretty easy, and I think pretty easy to retain. Okay, I'm going to teach you about one more main thing in the game. Then we're going to get to our grand finale with all of the battles. And we're going to learn about a critical strike with the evolved minions. That's the last thing. But this is something I've been really looking forward to, guys. And I've talked about this before, but we are going to discuss the patrol route system. And this is probably one of the most unique things in the game, and so many people like it. So let me just start from square one. When I was younger, like I said, I always wanted a dungeon game that would have be like a living dungeon, if you will, like a living dungeon with monsters and creatures and boss monsters lurking throughout the corridors and hallways of the dungeon. So years ago, I created this system exclusively for Dungeon Crusade called the patrol route system. So let me show you. This is known as the patrol route die. Okay, it's a D8, and then it has these footprints on it. Human footprint, a monster footprint, but you'll notice that there's 2 green sides, see that? And then 2 blue, 2 pink, and 2 orange. So when I devised this system, it's basically, these things are kind of like a dotted line, you know, they're all like kind of in a line, and they're networked throughout the dungeon on different monster spawn points. Remember those like green bubbles with a number, and these skull piles. And this is how the monsters go throughout the dungeon, and you will never know where the monsters are going to go next when they land on one of these different nodes or spawn points. That this gives this game this kind of living dungeon feel, and it's very awesome, and it works incredibly well. So I think we're going to have a good time. I'm going to go over this. It's, again, super easy. There's nothing complex about this. And I think you'll have a good time learning about this. So let's get down into the dungeon, and let's find a minion to help us demonstrate the patrol route system. Okay, and as you learned in a prior video, here is spawn point 1. And remember, there's 8 different spawn points. But for what I want to show you, I chose this one. So remember, how do you spawn a minion in? Let's say we're in the monster phase and we have to spawn a minion in. Use your D8 and roll. Okay, so this would be spawn point 2. You would draw from the minion monster deck, and in this case, I just grabbed our friendly skeletal grunt here, so we'll just set him over here. And you would spawn him in on spawn point 2. However, we're going to be using 1. Okay, so let's say that our skeletal grunt spawned in and on 1. So we're going to move him. Now, take a look here. Hopefully you can see this. Right here are those same footprints I showed you on the patrol route die. Here's blue, green, orange, and purple. So these are networked throughout the dungeon. So what you're going to do is say that it is the skeletal grunt's turn. And I'm going to put him on here. He just spawned in. Now, remember, and you could do this all at once, but I'm going to break this down for you. Remember the raid die. We're playing a novice, so you're going to roll all these 3 dice at the same time, but like I said, I'm going to break this down. You're going to first roll the raid die, or consult the raid die. Remember, if it's the highest value, that minion will convert into a raiding minion. You're going to put one of those raid tokens on their card. But of course, this isn't, so it is not a raiding minion. It is going to be a vagrant minion. The next thing you're going to do, or consult rather, when you roll all 3 of these dice, actually I'll set these up as a reminder. So there's 1. You're going to roll for its movement. A skeletal grunt has a base movement of 2 plus the roll of a d6. Right there. So you're going to roll for its movement. Not a lot of movement. 1. So 1 plus 2 is, of course, 3. It has 3 movement. Now, I want you to picture this kind of like the monster's brain. It's like spinning around thinking, okay, where am I going to move next to in the dungeon? It has 3 movement. This is the patrol route die. You roll it. Very easy. Orange came up, the orange patrol route. So I'm going to move him so we can see. And we can see, of course, the orange patrol route is right here. So he is going to move on the orange patrol route 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Do you see how that works? Let's reset that. Let's just roll this again. Okay, well, let's say green came up. It's going to use this green path. 1, 2, 3. However, when I put all these things together, when I laid all these out, notice that the orange patrol route goes this way and the green one goes this way. So really, you'll never know where these minions will go in the dungeon. And it's such an awesome system, you know, for Dungeon Crusade. It just fits it perfectly. Guys, in a nutshell, that's the patrol route system. So you can see as it goes through, you know, out this dungeon here, you know, it's going to go to, here's one of the sculpt pile nodes. Okay? So, you know, instead of the monster spawn point, you're going to see these skull pile nodes. It's the same thing. When they land on that, let's just bring our... So let's say this is on the blue patrol route. So we're going to, you know, trace this out. He ends up here on that skull pile. You're going to roll for the raid die. If it's on his turn, you roll the raid die, generate movement, patrol route. Okay, so purple came up. Purple is right over here. I'm holding the camera and doing this. So the purple route is, move all these dice. It's simply right here. It's going to move on the purple patrol route to actually right to this adjacent quadrant. It does the same thing again. So you can see as I pull back, you're never going to know where minions are going to go thanks to the patrol route system in the game. However, I want to point one other thing out, and this is like the corners of the dungeon. So hold on one moment. Okay, what I wanted to show you is right here on spawn point 2. And you're going to notice this more like on the corners of the dungeon and like the quadrants to the very left or right. You notice that there's like that purple footprint right there, and it's on the orange patrol route. Simply, that means if our friendly skeletal grunt was on there and he had rolled the purple, see if it would come up. Well, if that came up purple, you're simply going to follow the orange one because the purple footprint is on the orange patrol route, and it'll of course go to the next quadrant. So sometimes you may see, you know, a blue one on a green, a blue footprint on a green. And again, that just means you're going to use that patrol route because it's in a corner or one of these left or right spaces. And it's as simple as that. Okay, one of the last things here, let's just take all those dice, like I just said, and just go through the motions of this, of like what it would be like. Okay? First, consult your raid die to see if, you know, since we're using, okay, well, in this case, what luck? He would convert into a raiding minion. That's the highest value. But for this, let's just say it was, you know, another number. So no raid. Process this first. How much movement has this minion generated? Again, 2 plus the base movement 2 on its card. It has 4 movement. And then you're going to consult what patrol route this minion is going to move on. Of course, that's going to be the purple one. And looking over here, the purple one is right here. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's how that works. And real quickly, let me tell you, let's say that, you know, there was a minion on this spawn point, and we had another minion who was moving to, you know, move on to this. You are allowed to place that minion on that space for a moment so it can get a new patrol route. You know, let's say this orc archer had 7 movement. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, it has 4 remaining. It's going to go on the blue patrol route and then move the rest of its movement. So they can occupy a spawn point at the same time momentarily, but they can never end their space, you know, on that. Say they can't land on that, say they only had 1 movement left, you know, or they can't, then they just simply wait to go on that. And what you can do is you point that minion, see how he's looking in that direction to know that's the way he is heading. And guys, that's pretty much the patrol route system. Okay, we are going to move into our grand finale with our battles. Let's get into it. Okay, and I thought we're just going to rerun this whole thing one more time and do it quickly, and hopefully you got exactly what's going on. And just to save time, I'm not going to move the camera to tell you what weapon I'm going to declare. I'm of course going to say it, but then I'm just going to place the phase 1 battle token on that weapon. So let's get this started here. It's Maheliak's turn, right? He's going to generate some movement. He has a base movement of 2, and 4 plus 2 is 6. He's going to move and attack the Orc Archer. 1, 2. We're going to stop. That Orc Archer sees Maheliak. He's within that line of sight, which is 4. Put a raid token on his monster card. We're going to move him up. The Orc Archer is versed in spiritual warfare, chaos warfare, and ranged warfare. I'm going to cup him in my hand like this, give it a shake, draw 1 at random. Oh, it's going to be spiritual. I'm going to consult his card right here, and hopefully I can get this on camera for you. Let's see what we're looking at here. Wow, -2, and he doesn't have anything with spiritual. So I'll tell you what I can do. I'll move this up here, and I'm just going to declare the evergreen bow. He's going to attack with that, and we're going to hope for the best. We got our spiritual warfare dice. We got our final strike die. Let's roll as I knock that over. Oh, okay, so we have 11 there, final strike, 10. But remember, though, we were going to have to -2 off that. Looking at the minion card for spiritual, only an 8. So we only needed an 8. What do we have here? Okay, so that's 11 -2. That's 9. He's already killed the Orc Archer. And 10 -2. And he would have, well, if he didn't hit with this warfare roll, he would have killed it with that. Maheliak has killed the Orc Archer because it only has 1 health. Take him off the board. Hey guys, I'm sorry about that. My hand had hit the stop button. What I was saying was we are now going to do the loot and gold roll. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so for the loot, we need a 20. And to get 100 gold, we need a 19 plus. We're going to roll our D20, of course. Let's get this out of here. And nah, we got a 9. Okay, so that's it. Combat's over. So you can see how that played out from, remember before it was ranged and then chaos came up. But Maheliak, even though he wasn't proficient in spiritual warfare, he managed to pull it through. Okay, on to the next battle. Okay guys, this is the battle I've been really looking forward to, and this is definitely where that Thinking Man's Dungeon Crawl game comes in, and I'm really enjoying this right now, I have to tell you. So let's look at what's going on here. Enwyn, if I can put my pen here, she's right here. She is out of line of sight. Oops, sorry Enwyn. Stand her back up. She is, oh, she was 1 space up. Apologize, technical difficulties. So we can see there's this, it's actually an elite skeletal grunt, and then we have this normal version of a shadow servant, okay? So what we need to do is consult, who do we want to attack? Okay, looking at her hero card over here, and I already looked at some of those monster cards. We're going to go over, she's very proficient in physical warfare. However, very lacking in mythical, and not too hot either with arcane. But notice spiritual is 0. Okay, so let's take a look at these monster cards here. I'm going to try to, well, if I can try to do it like this. Here we go. So here are their monster cards right here. If I can hold that up there. So notice that I don't think that we're going to have her attack the skeletal grunt, because notice there is a mythical on there. And she's, what, I think -3 with that. So that's not good. However, the shadow servant, excuse me, has, of course, the physical. She's middle of the road with spiritual, and arcane she is -2. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have Enwyn attack the shadow servant. Okay, so let's get this going on, and I'm excited for this battle. She has a base movement of 3, and so let's roll generate movement. 3. Okay, that's good. So she has a total of 6. So now watch what's going to happen. 1, let's consult line of sight. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. She has come into sight of that skeletal grunt. So what are we going to do? We're going to put I'll just put it here, a raid token. It's become a raiding minion. She's going to move up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. She's in sight of that shadow servant. That's also going to convert into a raiding minion. But anyone has something up her sleeve that you're going to like. So let's just move up with the rest of the movement. And let's go here. Okay, now I wanted to do this. Hold on. I'm going to move the camera up to point this out. Okay, notice that she is adjacent to the shadow servant and the skeletal grunt. You know, anywhere in those 8 squares, that is considered adjacent. Also, movement. I wanted to touch on this before. In Dungeon Crusade, heroes can move orthogonally, meaning they can move up and down, left and right. They are never permitted to move diagonal. However, they can make diagonal attacks, okay? So heroes movement up and down, left and right, no diagonal, but they can attack diagonal. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack this shadow servant. And this is the kind of the last rule about the new evolved minions, and it's called a critical strike. Let me tell you real quick what that is, and then we'll get into combat. Basically, it's this. Critical strike means if you have any damage left over from an attack from that main monster, because she's going to be attacking the shadow servant. So let's just say it took 1 damage, because I believe he only has 1 health. It only takes 1 hit to destroy the shadow servant. There's 1 extra damage left, right? Let's say that the final strike roll was a 20. Okay? You have to pick a direction, and it's kind of like her swing is going to affect any adjacent monster. So it's kind of like splash damage, you know, in a way. So she has 2 damage that she rolled on the warfare dice and the final strike die. 1 damage goes to the shadow servant, destroying it, and then she kind of chooses a direction to swing. So she's going to choose this way, of course, or this way if there's another minion here. These are very rare circumstances, but it does happen. So that 1 damage can be applied to the skeletal grunt. You don't have to make another warfare roll. It's basically, think of it as pure damage. It can be put onto any minion that's adjacent to her, kind of like in her arc of swinging or shooting, or however you want to say that. Okay, let me get the warfare tokens, and hopefully that all made sense with the critical strike. So it's leftover damage that you can apply to a monster. No other roll is made. You can, think of it, award that damage to another adjacent minion. Be right back with the warfare tokens. Okay, taking a look at the shadow servant, we can see it is versed in spiritual warfare, arcane warfare, and physical warfare. So we really are hoping that this shadow servant selects physical warfare or spiritual, because you know it's N1 has a -2 to arcane. So I'm going to just set this back over here. I have those warfare tokens right here. Hope you can see them all. And I'm just giving them a quick shake. 1 at random, and it's spiritual. Okay, so let's consult this card here, and it is what? Oh, we got to get, was that an 11? So we have to hit 11 with the spiritual warfare dice, and we're going to gather our final strike die. And she does not have anything. No, she doesn't have anything to add to this roll, so she's going to have to straight get an 11 with the warfare dice and with the final strike die. So I crash into everything. Let's take a look. Perfect. Look at the, oh wow. Check this out. 11 and 6. That's 17 and an 18 on the final strike. I am very happy this came up. Okay, so check it out. That's only 1 health, correct? Okay, we're gonna kill that. She's killed this. Now remember the critical strike. So that was processed there, right? This die, she scored a damage with this. You don't have to make another roll. So she's kind of swinging around this way, and she hits this for 1 damage. So we would take a damage marker. Well, I put it on its monster card. This monster's down now to only 1 health. The skeletal grunt has 2. Okay, 2 health. I just want to show you that. Now, it does have a special ability, but this does not come into play because it was not the target. So, you know, if she would have attacked him, you notice it has shield deflect. For each successful warfare roll a hero makes where the skeletal grunt would take damage, it rolls 1d20. On a result of 16 to 20, no damage is dealt to the skeletal grunt. That doesn't come into play. It was just kind of an innocent bystander, and it got hit by the attack by Enwin from that. So that is a critical strike. Remember that. It just kind of goes over to, you know, in your swing. You choose a direction, and it can carry over to another minion. And that pretty much is the evolved minions game variant, the combat. And I hope you enjoy that. But hold on, we have one final thing, and we're going to try to take out the skeletal grunt.